but I'm a little frustrated and I'm throwing off words.
And then you're throwing them at me.
Yes.
Like, hello.
And even if I don't mean to, you're receiving it accordingly that way. So intentions are overrated. Okay. You didn't mean to are overrated. Okay.
Yeah, there are consequences.
There are consequences for actions that you took that you didn't mean it to be that way.
That's life.
All right. So, and there's great rewards for being aware about that so that you don't do it, so that you don't end up in all this fuss. There's massive rewards for that.
You can choose your battles.
You can think of it as grace. You can think of it as, vibe. It's peace of mind around you all the time. No drama zone, right? It seems almost impossible to most people. That they don't think this is possible. They think it's all cap. but
that's their outlook on life. You need to change that.
How to handle verbal abuse in a marriage. Verbal abuse can be defined as using or communicating words that are angry, critical, and sometimes demeaning to the recipient. What counts as verbal abuse is often dependent on the individual and how they perceive it. What one person might deem as verbal abuse, another may not consider as such.
Yes.
We talked about this earlier.
Yes, that's true.
What counts as verbal abuse is very common occurrence in marriage, but just because it may have been something you have dealt with in the past does not mean that this is something that has to continue happening. Facts. Yeah, people normalize that. People think I'm normalizing when I say it will happen. No, I'm saying it will happen. You have to learn how to reject it, properly, right? So you can take steps to learn how to handle verbal abuse better and find ways to overcome these problems head on. All right, we'll consider what count as examples of verbal abuse. Threatening violence against someone. Well, if you feel threatened physically, that is not just verbal abuse anymore. As far as I'm concerned, that's already physical abuse.
Right.
I'm not waiting until it actually happens.
That's right.
Yeah, that's if somebody threatens, like, I will slap, you will chop slap. What? At that point in time, they need to seek help.
Right.
I mean, how could you think that's normal to say to your spouse?
Right. I mean, abuse to me, for example, some people when they get in fights, there was a case of a lady, anytime her and her spouse gets into it, she uses, she breaks something in the house. Break the TV.
Yes.
Use her heel.
If anybody is throwing anything because they're angry, I don't care if you're the man or woman, you need to leave.
Yeah, because one day they're going to throw it at you. Yeah. And they will black out.
Or let's say the best case scenario, I hate to say it that way, could be they didn't mean to throw it at you, but it hurt you.
Okay.
Like, just because they're angry, right?
You only have one life to live.
So yelling at someone, constant insults and rude remarks.
Yep.
These are verbal abuse. So how do you handle verbal abuse, baby? If I just, it starts like this. You're not making sense. That right there is verbal abuse. Why did I consider that verbal abuse? Because typically it's a way to put the other person down. What they said.
It's demeaning, yes.
Yeah, what they said, even if what they said hasn't made sense. Right? One of the things like that I noticed that a lot of gentlemen do a lot in the clubhouse rooms is
clubhouse streets.
On the clubhouse street is both women and men do it. When they are pushing back at somebody's point, they say, but that doesn't make any sense. They say it a lot.
Wow.
When you say this, it doesn't make sense. I'm like, that right there in a marriage is verbal abuse.
Yeah.
Because the other person will feel it as you're putting them down, or you will feel it as what they said. You're putting what they said and their idea of life, you're putting it down. They're feeling it that way. You didn't mean any harm.
Yeah, because you're basically not trying to understand what they're saying. You're just saying, oh, that doesn't make sense to me. What do you mean? How does that make sense to you? Some people even ask, does that make sense to you? And
yeah, does that make sense too? does that make sense? Something I used to do a lot, you know, and I started to pay attention. Like, well, does that make sense? Is indirectly telling the person that
It doesn't make sense.
that they are not able to comprehend what you're saying. Because I'm saying something to you, and I said, does that make sense? Right? I'm also.
Oh yeah, that's true. So you're trying to let me understand
Right.
what you're saying,
Right.
but the opposite is always what happens. I'm like, what
So
do you mean?
So obviously, right? But obviously, it depends on the context.
And the tone.
What is the tone? It depends, right? I can still be explaining something to you, babe, right? 1 + 2 = 2. You see this one? Does this make sense? You say, oh, that's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about this a certain tone, right? I already explained it to you, but I felt like you didn't get it. Like earlier today, I told her to, the baby's good and everything, and then halfway into the recording, I'm hearing baby noise, right? That's a good moment where I could have been like, this thing's going to, like, does that make, there's a couple of things I could say there where I don't mean any harm, but I'm a little frustrated and I'm throwing off words.
And then you're throwing them at me.
Yes.
Like, hello.
And even if I don't mean to, you're receiving it accordingly that way. So intentions are overrated. Okay. You didn't mean to are overrated. Okay.
Okay, there are consequences.
There are consequences for actions that you took that you didn't mean it to be that way.
That's life.
All right. So, and there's great rewards for being aware about that so that you don't do it, so that you don't end up in all this fuss. There's massive rewards for that.
You can choose your battles.
You can think of it as grace. You can think of it as, vibe, peace of mind around you all the time. No drama zone, right? It seems almost impossible to most people. That they don't think this is possible. They think it's all cap. But
that's their outlook on life. You need to change that.
Change that. It's very possible. It's just a matter of being determined. I know you like me to say the word here. Being intentional. Right?
This clubhouse.
It's a matter of being intentional.
About, we gotta be intentional.
About achieving whatever it is you want. But the thing that I realize people don't understand is that when it's playing out, it's more difficult than when you're running your mouth.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, because it's funny how people say you have to be intentional in the moment they're arguing, and you're like, are you being intentional right now?
Absolutely not.
Use that right now.
You're being unintentional.
It's funny.
You're being unintentionally unintentional right now.
Come on, man.
Even though you're using the word intentional, right? People don't realize it. So
I'm over it.
It's so tricky, and but these are normal human behavior, but we don't want to normalize things that we know will hurt us eventually or hurt our relationships, right? So that's really the point of what we're saying here, that when it comes to verbal abuse, the best, how do you handle it? Acknowledge that it's happening. That's one. Okay. Understand that the other person may not mean to be verbally abusing you. So when you understand that, it allows you to apply grace. Bring the awareness to, I feel attacked when you say certain things. I feel better when you say these other things. If you're going to say some of these things to me, I want you to be aware of how it make me feel. And if they're still having trouble understanding that after 2 or 3 conversations, counseling may not be a bad idea. I promise you. It just may not be, because effective communication skills is not natural. It's not. It doesn't fall out of the skies. It just doesn't.
It's not being so.
But we're talking about verbal abuse now. Violence, threat of violence is not verbal abuse. That's physical violence already. Okay, so don't misconstrue them together.